Dune Part 2 is officially being delayed because of the strikes. At least that's what the studios want you to believe. Hey everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time with us. So, the news has finally broken that Dune Part 2, one of the most anticipated movies of the year, is not going to be released in November. It has been pushed to March of next year. And by the way, I suspect it will get pushed again. We'll talk about why in a minute. Now, the story behind this delay is that, well, because of the writers and actors strike, there's less movies to show. So 2024 is looking a little thin on content. Plus, we've seen some recent failures like Stray and Blue Beetle that probably could have done a little better business had the actors been out there able to promote the films. And since Dune Part 2 has a star-studded cast, wouldn't it be nice if those stars were on the red carpet and on the talk shows able to promote the movie and let people know that it is out there? And because they can't do that, Warner Brothers has decided, you know what, we're going to move this movie to March. And we will have a better turnout there. And hopefully this whole strike thing will be over at that point. Now, before we get too much farther, if this is the result of the strikes, like seriously, like if delaying all these movies is a result of the strikes, then you know what? The AMPTP, I think that's how you pronounce it, the producers, should really sit down and hammer out a good faith deal with the writers and the actors. No more of this. This is our one fair deal and take it or leave it. None of this will hand you the deal, you know, and we'll get back a couple days. No. Sit in a room, hammer it out, and don't leave until you come up with a deal. This has gone on far enough. The writers are going to get something, and they're going to get more than what you're offering, so you might as well go in good faith negotiations and make a deal, especially since, honestly, CEOs, producers, it's your job to keep the money flowing. And if the money ain't flowing, what are you getting paid tens of millions of dollars every year to do? That's a side rant. But here's the thing. I don't think Dune Part 2 being delayed has much to do with the writer's strike. It might have a little bit to do because, again, SAG is also striking. The actors can't promote it. Whatever. But I think this move actually has more to do with the Oscars. Now, here's why I believe that. The previous Dune movie was a huge awards contender. I believe it got like 10 Oscar nominations, with director not being one of them, which was ironic. And it ultimately went on to win 6, which was a record-breaking move for a movie that did not have a Best Director nomination. Clearly, this movie can do very well at awards time, and it was positioned in November to be an awards contender. So what happened that made me think that this has more to do with the move than the whole strike thing? Well, a little film called Barbie came out and is currently the highest grossing film of the year, highest grossing film for a movie directed by a woman, and here's the thing. It is expected to have a lot of award nominations. I believe it will be a Best Picture nominee. I think Greta Gerwig could be a Best Director nominated film director. I believe Ryan Gosling will get a Best Supporting Actor nomination. I don't know if Margot Robbie deserves a Best Actress nomination, but she could get one because of the success, and it will get in for screenplay, all these technical things. So Barbie is not only a box office juggernaut, it is expected to be an awards player. Now, who distributes Barbie? Warner Brothers. Who distributes Dune? Warner Brothers. Therefore, it does not make a lot of sense for Warner Brothers to be competing with Warner Brothers. So, I believe one of the things that they have done is they have decided to take Dune Part 2, move it into next year's conversation where maybe they have a better chance at winning Oscars. For 2 reasons. First of all, they don't have to compete with themselves, because you might have noticed that Warner Brothers did not delay the release of Wonka or The Color Purple. Now, unlike Dune Part 2, that is an established IP, this is the one of the most anticipated sequels of the year, I bet you that movie financially would have done fine. But they want the awards, therefore they're pushing it next year. But Wonka and The Color Purple, you do need your stars to be out there promoting it because those are much tougher sells. However, neither of those movies are expected to win a Best Picture Academy Award. The Color Purple will probably do well at the Oscars. There can be an actress, a supporting actress. It could get nominated for Best Picture, but not a lot of people are expecting an outright win. They don't consider that to be a competitor. So that one can stay in December because it'll get some nominations and that will help sell the movie, but it's not expected to win. Right now, the big competing movies are Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese, and the big one of the big one, Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan. Now, Christopher Nolan is widely expected to win Best Director, and Oppenheimer has a very good shot at winning Best Picture. We'll have to see. Maybe something better will come along, but I would be very surprised. This seems like one of those years where there is a clear front runner and something that should clearly win. And I bet you Warner Brothers is feeling a little confident that Dune Part 2, once the whole story is there, could potentially win the top prize. But do you want to put it up against Oppenheimer? Well, that's a little hard to do because Oppenheimer has a lot going for it. You could risk that maybe it would run out of steam come the winter time, and thus maybe Dune could surge. But again, then you're competing with your own film, Barbie. So since Oppenheimer is the front runner and Barbie has a bunch of potential to win the top prizes, why would you be competing with yourself and a filmmaker who you supposedly want to woo back into your graces? I wouldn't be surprised if part of the move when it comes to the awards mentality is, you know what? We can win for Dune Part 2 next year. Let's step aside. Let's let Christopher have his moment. And then we can go full-blown and push Denis Villeneuve and win him his first Academy Award the following year. Because The Color Purple probably won't get a Best Director nomination. I don't think Wonka's going to get really any nominations. That movie looks terrible, although the fact that it is directed from the guy who directed the two Paddington movies, which are wonderful, does lead me to wonder if that movie's going to be as bad as I think it's going to be. But either way, I don't think either one's going to be a big awards contender. And yes, obviously the strikes mean that there's going to be fewer movies next year, so they're going to push it. Now here's the thing. Because Dune Part 2, I believe this was done more for awards than anything, I bet you they are like making a little plan with IMAX, like, look, we will tentatively commit to this date, but we do want the November time slot. It's the most advantageous for us. It can get us the most box office potential. It can get us the most awards chatter. I believe Dune Part 2 is going to move again into a November or December slot next year. But make no mistake, this delay has very little, if anything, to do with the writers and actors strike. Now, if that's the case, why is the studio saying, well, because of the strike, we're delaying this movie? And really, that should be pretty obvious. It's because the producers want the writers and the actors to be the bad guys. They recently broke with protocol and potentially the law by releasing to the public the counteroffer they made for the Writers Guild of America, saying, look, we are giving you this hefty pay raise, we are giving you this, we're giving you this is our counter proposal. They don't want to take it, and they're trying to hurt us, trying to get a bunch of people to say, see, we're making an offer, they're not being reasonable, even though the offer is really quite bad when you get into the nitty-gritty of it. So that's one thing they're doing. Those conversations are supposed to be private, but they want to get it out there to make the actors and writers look bad. But then the second thing is then they say, oh, look, we're delaying Dune. You all want to see Dune. Because of these strikes, we got to delay it, and we might have to delay it again. Aren't those writers and actors so mean? Don't they, piss you off that you can't see Dune sooner? You have to wait a little longer because of these strikes? They want the strikers to look like the bad guys. Don't do it. The AMPTP is helped being run by like Ted Sarandos, David Zaslav, Bob Iger, a bunch of producers and CEOs for the big companies. These people make tens of billions of dollars a year, tens of millions of dollars a year. Bob Iger is making $27 million a year, supposedly, and he doesn't want to like say, you know what? Hey, what if we all like cut 25% of our fee? What if I lived with $6 million less and only took like $20 million a year? We could pay everyone fairly, and then we can get things back on track. No, they don't want to do that. And reportedly, Ted Sarandos has actually said he's worried that if they give the writers a fair deal, it will encourage writers and actors in other countries to want a fair deal. Gee, you think? You think after how much money does Ted Sarandos make? So I think that it's a publicity stunt by saying the writing and the actor strikes, these are the reasons why we're delaying the movie. They want the strikers to be the bad guys, and they want the public to turn against them. I hope that does not work. I hope the public is smart enough to see that. But there's some people out there who they don't think this through very well. They don't know how this works, and it will probably work for some people at the very least. But I think that ultimately the move has less to do with the writers and actors strike and more to do that they truly do believe that Dune can win a bunch of Oscars. I think they believe it can win director and picture. But why would you do it in a year when Oppenheimer is the clear favorite? And if it's not the clear favorite, you've got another movie in the form of Barbie that could be sitting, waiting in the wings. It kind of seems like from a publicity standpoint in terms of the Oscar campaign, it's best to get out of Nolan and Scorsese's way and compete next year when maybe you have a better shot at winning. But that's just my thoughts. What do you think? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.